Welcome to Art Traffic. Let's get going.
It's really hard to be in California.
Very expensive.
Well, where do we begin?
Right? Yeah.
Where do we begin? Sure, we have nice weather. Let's start there.
Okay, this week, you guys, we have a fun little episode for you with CACtTUS LB founder Jorge Mujica, who is an artist-run space in Long Beach, and he brought along an artist in Roxana Martinez, who is their artist in residence at the moment, and they talk extensively about their artist in residence program, as well as both their own personal work and sort of the mission of CACtTUS LB. And it's a good little interview. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let us know if you do. Drop us a line at our Instagram, ArtTrafficLA, or through our email, arttrafficpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoy the episode. Here we go with Jorge Mujica and Roxana Martinez. Would you ever allow somebody else to fabricate your work?
What do you mean?
Like, would you ever just, like, design to a certain level and then turn that over to a fabrication house like, Peter Carlson or something like that?
Close. So, like, there are definitely some really interesting, unique qualities about what I do that have made interacting with fabricators compelling, because the fabricator... I'm working with Standard Sculpture right now on a sculpture that was commissioned by the Museum of Latin American Art and the City of Long Beach. And so the sculpture will sit for 10 years or more at Gumbiner Park, and it's made out of aluminum. And
oh, wow. This is the place I was really wondering if these would go there.
yes.
Yeah.
So they finally did.
The more permanent, more, yeah. And now we're getting into engineering and
Correct.
footings and, yeah.
And 100%. That's exactly where we're at. So we're dealing with the pedestal, the liabilities, the city attorney wants there to be a fence around it. I'm like, all right, cool, we can have a fence, but then that means that the sculpture has to be taller than the fence so that the fence doesn't impact the view of the sculpture. Mm-hmm. And so they're okay with that.
That's a wild thing. Like, what sculptures do you know that are in public that have fences around them?
Word, right?
Like, let's talk about this for a hot second here,
Yeah.
okay? How about that freaking John Wayne-ass sculpture in downtown LA and the Wells Fargo building, where it's just like the horse and the cowboy and the like the whole majestic narrative, right? Where's that fence?
I mean, get to a more iconic one is the Merrill Lynch bowl.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have it, but it's
No.
also like solid copper.
Yeah.
You're going to hurt yourself hitting it. So
same thing with the aluminum.
It's true.
There's so many examples of aluminum
with my
sculptures.
sculpture, the reason why they wanted to put a fence on this because they didn't want to encourage people climbing it, because they will climb it.
It's climbable.
And it's super easy to climb it. It's super easy to climb it.
Fun.
But so that's my game card right now. But I'm excited because I get to go paint it, and then once it's painted and it's installed, the engineering is proof that it's going to take on a Category 3 wind speed.
Okay.
And it's going to take over 300 pounds of pressure for that metal to move in a permanent way. Otherwise, it'll just bounce back to where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. There are some sharp edges on the top, which I'm pretty excited about. But I mean, all that stuff is referencing specific cultural heritage that I've been thinking about and trying to echo that type of cultural echo within the work, but also make it relatable to Long Beach, which was like really important. So, Aztec manuscripts are a big part of the imagery that I look at to get inspired, and so that's how that goes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't realized that right off the bat, and now I'm really thinking about like a lot of the relief carving.
Yeah. So
that's
really
interesting.
With the relief carving, there's a lot of side portraits. a lot of side movements and a lot of decoration and ornateness that happens to it. But if you take away all the colors and you isolate that and you just do a line drawing throughout the sides of it, then you get the same type of meandering shapes that I create.
Oh, wow.
And that was a real big impact for me when I was a little kid, when I was looking at those ruins in the Museum of Anthropology. And so then when I would go back to it, that became a lot more permanent in my consciousness about what I wanted to do, because that's how people would work with stone. Like, they would make these relief stones. And even in portraiture, like, I look at your painting, like, that's what an Italian portrait would look like. It would be a side profile with the landscape of wherever they're from.
Yeah. I just want to see if I can just get you guys to just, like, introduce yourself, so just, like, maybe just, like, your name and a little bit about yourself. And Roxana, you go first.
Hi, my name is Roxana Martinez. I guess I could say my job, I'm a display artist, but I'm also an artist, a sculptor, installation artist. I went to UCR for my undergrad, and then graduated in 2000.
Go Highlanders, you know?
Yeah, we're the underdogs.
My wife Michelle's you didn't get to meet her today, but she was an ethnic studies major at UCR.
Oh, really? That's cool. So what year was she like?
Oh my gosh!
Get
ready. I think she's 92. Yeah.
I graduated in 2012 from UCR.
Wow.
2012, and then I went to SAIC in Chicago. Graduated in 2015 from the Fiber and Material Studies department. Fiber people. Got my master's there. Left Chicago, came back, and then I was looking, I think you, Jorge, like, followed me on Facebook, and then I was here, like, in Long Beach, because my boyfriend was, like, working at a restaurant in Long Beach, and then he had the studio at ArtX, and then I was like, hey, are you there? Because I was, like, eating at the restaurant, and my boyfriend was busy, and I was like, yeah, come through. And I was like, okay, I'll walk there. And then I met him, and then that's how we met. And then he moved his studio to Made, and then he's like, hey, there's a studio opening at Made. And I was like, okay, I'm going. And so that's how we, like, hit it off at Made. And now I left Made, he left Made, and he invited me to CACtTUS. We've had a good relationship since we met.
Yeah. So, maybe just, like, describe to us what you're working on at CACtTUS, and then maybe Jorge, you can talk a little bit about kind of like the program that you guys are working on that brings Roxana to that.
Sure.
There, yeah. So, Roxana, what are you working on over there at CACtTUS?
Right now, I'm working on a show that started with a quote from my dad that he always tells me. I'm a Mexican-American artist. My parents came from Mexico. But there's this quote that he always tells me, no te quedes en la raya, which means don't stay on the finish line. Just to keep going, to keep striving, to keep, like moving forward in life, which is what he's based his life on. Like, he's always been like, come on, let's work, work hard, and we'll get the American dream. So that started with that, and it metamorphosized into, like, a sculpture of my father in these, like, clothes that I'm just cutting up and, like, making his face. And I'm using these clothes to relate to the body. I'm making in a way where it's not perfect. It's more like me intuitively making him and making something that transmits something more than a portrait of him, but, like, more of, like, his vibe. And then I covered these trophies with these clothes, these silk shirts. I'm still trying to figure out what they mean, but there's I think it's like a one note right now, and I'm, like, trying to, like, move it forward. So it is, what Jorge gave me is a studio space. So I'm an artist in residence where I am transforming my work at the moment. It's not final.
Yeah.
It's always moving forward. It's not like, oh, this is where this piece is going to be installed here. It's like the process is still moving forward, and that's what I have with at CACtTUS.
Yeah, and that's kind of, like, constantly on display in a way to a public that could be
Yeah.
walking because of
Yeah.
the architecture of the spot.
Yeah.
It's got these huge windows,
Yeah.
and so are you getting some like interaction or some feedback or
So
like,
the only feedback I've
expected
gotten,
or unexpected?
I mean, the only feedback I got was from this. Well, there's a lot of eyes that walk by, and everybody looks at me and says hi. There's a lot of kids. I love when the little kids walk by and you just wave at them. They're like, "Oh, hi." So I love that because it's like you open up their imagination. They're just like, "What is this?" And it's like,
yes.
I'm an artist. But there was one comment from this one guy that passed by. He's like, "Can I take a picture?" And then he was like, "Oh yeah, what if you had like monkeys climbing up these trophies?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, totally." So it's kind of fun.
So do you have to, like, let's say you decide to put monkeys into the sculpture, do you have to give up some authorship, or are you going to take on someone from the public as a as a co-artist? Like it's a collaboration now?
I mean, I'm not gonna put monkeys in the trophies. But I mean,
why?
it made
Because
me,
monkeys is a bad idea, or because you don't want to give up authorship?
I think
What's
it's
really
like, okay,
happening?
I'm not gonna put monkeys in there. But it got me thinking. It was like, okay, this man is seeing these as buildings. This is like King Kong. He wants me to do something like. He sees them as architecture, so I didn't see them as that.
Oh,
So then that sparked something, and that's like low key a studio visit from a public person. You know, like you're like it just sparks something. So that's why
fantastic.
it's like I think the thing with CACtTUS, what I have, the artist's residency, is that the more I'm there, it's just faster. Your work is like in like a speed like 1,000 times faster than you are on your own.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
That's
Which is
really,
like,
that's something that unexpected. I didn't know would happen.
Because,
but like,
I mean, there's a time limit, so then I have to give it my all.
But still not allowed to stand on the finish line, right? It's,
well,
like, even that's not, like, an endpoint for you, right? This is just, like, a point in the race where you had to, like, step up the speed.
Yeah.
But never finished.
Yeah.
So, Jorge, what's the program, I guess, that you're working at CACtTUS LB, which is like the artist in residence?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate the effort.
We're
for our traffic.
thrilled to have you guys here.
But CACtTUS, which is an acronym for Creative Arts Coalition to Transform Urban Space, was founded in 2017 by me and Mayra Serna. I'm Jorge Mujica. Like Roxana said, I've been in that neighborhood since 2014, and so my experiences when I had a studio space at the Art Exchange were really great because I would open up the doors and be out there working in the studio 24 hours a day. So it could be like 1:30 in the morning with all the lights on, playing K-Day, listening to Long Beach centric hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And making noise and all this stuff, and then families would just pull over and come in at 1:30 in the morning and ask me, "What do you do here?" And it's like, what am I gonna do as an artist that opened up my door in a storefront? Then people come in and ask me. Of course, I'm gonna be gracious enough to give them my time and not educate them, but share with them what I do.
Yeah.
And I think that was the seed that was planted in me and my experiences there that allowed me to see that this neighborhood had something really unique, and that the spirit of the neighborhood was that of curiosity. Mm-hmm. So when I started to work in that environment, I wanted to be able to grow off of it. So I tried to immerse myself within that. And when the opportunity came to see whether I could move into this space, I had to consult with my partner at the time, Mayra, and we were like, "Hey, do you want to move in together? Do you want to start this project? How do you feel about it? I really like this neighborhood." Mayra and I met at the Art Exchange at that studio, so it also is like the same corner that we met at. So there's like a lot of nostalgia that is part of that, of what set up CACtTUS to be what it is today. But since January 2017, when we moved in together and we brought in Otis, who's a 7-year-old pit bull that lives there, and he guards the window adamantly.
He's so sweet.
He's the sweetest.
It's a J.O.B.
Oh yeah, he's there. He's protecting Roxana's work all the time.
He is.
And so he's great. He's the best docent. But it's really been great to like have Otis go from a backyard dog to be a dog that lives around art all of the time, because even he has had this like wonderful cultured experience where he's like seeing things happen in front of him all like constantly. Because since moving into the space in 2017, we've had 28 exhibits and we've worked with over 200 artists. And so in 2 years, from 2017 through the end of 2018, we had a turnaround of artists coming into the space every month. So, sometimes twice a month. And so what was fun was the amount of artists that would come into Mayra and I's living room and transform it, and the growing pains of being able to assist an artist in their desires to engage the ceiling, to make holes, to move a wall, to, accommodate these ideas of eccentric creativity within the space that we inhabit and live in. Also, we wanted to maybe enrich that experience for the artist so that it wasn't a conversation that started months that took a conversation that took months to occur and happen, but to open the doors and allow an artist to come into the space with their materials and just kind of explore the parameters that they're working in and have a reaction to it that is sincere. Where like an artist can be making something in their studio and then can accommodate that work within the space that is going to be exhibited. And those are two different dynamics, and I think that one of the things that allowed for CACtTUS to grow from 2017 to 2018 was the development of a calendar and being able to grow an exhibition in January that would happen in October or November, and be able to like follow through with supporting those artists to do that. So, for example, it took a year for this artist named Eric Larson to get an Arts Council grant through the Long Beach Arts Council. It was a micro grant, and it was like 1 month we would spend 2 hours working on the grant, and then 2 months later we would get some feedback and then we'd work on it again. And then it took a full year for Eric to get his Arts Council grant, and then it took like a few more months to set up a calendar so that he can have his window time to make it, and all of those different things would happen. So with 28 exhibits, it was a lot. So to be able to change the dynamic so that it wasn't so heavy on the administrative side, but at the same time enrich the artist experience so that they can be in the space doing whatever they wanted, was a shift, and was also something that took a lot of learning on the administrative side.
Yeah. And so as an artist-run gallery, what's the impact of living, working, showing, like everything on your work?
You know what? That's a really astute question, because when 2017 came about, the idea of CACtTUS required a lot of effort. It was like a 24-hour focus on, painting the walls, getting lights, figuring out what grants would be possible to apply for, setting up a calendar and working with artists so that, they would agree to work with us even though we're really new, and like being able to do all of those things. And so I had to take my personal practice and kind of put a pin on it, but still continue to develop ideas and like nourish those ideas, but not necessarily come through to the studio and make my own work, but just kind of refine my process of thinking about what I was doing. And then in the next year, in 2018, I worked really diligently to make sure that the calendar was set by March. So I only took the first 3 months of the year to set up the calendar for the remainder of 2018. And that gave me the breath needed to be able to focus on my own work. And in the process, acknowledge how much I was gaining from the collaborations that I was assisting with, in inviting somebody into our home and assisting the artists in whatever their needs were for their ideas to be manifested was so enriching. Like practicing empathy and applying it to my everyday life, and learning about how a person thinks about their own work in an intimate way, and then living with their work was also a really wonderful experience. So what happened after March is that I started to work collaboratively with a variety of artists that, wouldn't be able to work with me at CACtTUS, but would be able to work with me if I made a freestanding painting with them. And so all of 2018 after March was a series of planting seeds with different artists to make freestanding paintings for what is now going to be an installation at the Other Places Art Fair, March 2nd and 3rd. And so what it did is that it allowed for me to visualize my collaborations at CACtTUS as an aspect of my own practice, but at the same time fueled my sense of creativity to work with other artists and to make more work that is inspired by my own hand, and at the same time allow me to learn how to communicate with another person, so that the process of collaboration wasn't convoluted with like a heavy-handed approach, but it had structure. So I think the collaborations have developed since March, and I'm real excited. The Other Places Art Fair has CACtTUS got a booth there, and so we'll have 15 collaborations that will be set up in an outdoor space in San Pedro. And I can't wait to see all these 15 freestanding paintings set up together in this meander in an outdoor space where other project spaces from around Los Angeles are contributing and participating. And I think that definitely echoes a sense of what CACtTUS wants to do in promoting artists.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're getting so much out of that space in that way.
Yeah,
it seems like you're really trying to get like as much opportunity out of the space as humanly possible.
When I first started working in my studio space at the Art Exchange, I was really fortunate that I worked with another artist that was from the Fiber Arts program at SAIC, named Stephen Frost. And Stephen was a major part of me being invited to work at that studio. And he had an idea to create an exhibition space as part of our studio space, and kind of growing from his trial and error ideas of how to do that fueled my ambitions to be an artist, and this like non-complacency with like, I don't have studio space, I don't have these kinds of things. Like the parameters of my studio situation were never gonna hold me down from making art. So when the opportunity was to live in a storefront that was live work, then that for me turned the gear into third gear, because it's like, now I'm never gonna sleep. Now I'm never gonna stop. I gotta continue doing
my
this.
every activity is art.
Yeah, because like, you only get one chance at this life.
Oh boy, that's the truth.
Let's talk about this.
You only get one chance at this life. And my parents came to this country, and they spent all of their time and energy to try to, establish and try to build. And now that they're about to retire, I sort of see that, like, maybe they came late to the party. Maybe it was always a trap. Maybe like everybody lives their own life through like the different substances or situations of every decade. But it made me reflect on like how it is that I wanted to move my life forward. And because I'm an artist and I decided to invest all this time and energy into going to learn about art, I can't look back ever and think that, like, I'm not making art. Like, when I had a job and I was working 40 hours a week for an art gallery, I was like, man, why can't people work this hard for my work? When am I going to get to that point? And when I started working with a fabricator and I needed to move my artwork, and they told me like, no, we got this. I was like, what's going on here? Like, low key, that was like one of my, like, I mean, to this day, I think I'm gonna remember that moment and feel great.
Yeah,
because I was like, wow,
you arrived,
you made it.
I mean, and you know what? It's gonna be momentary, right? Because it's gonna be a while before this happens again.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Yeah.
And I was on the other side of the equation because many times I was helping moving another person's artwork, and I kept thinking, when is this situation gonna be flipped?
Mm-hmm. Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a fabricator for a while. Yeah, and it's I know the feeling. I'll just say that.
Yeah, so like when it came to like help an artist like Roxana work in CACtTUS, because she showed there in October of 2017. Like, there's a big conversation about like, oh, how does this look? How does that look? And again, I took on that idea. I got on the ladder. I held it. I helped her see those kinds of things, because those moments are really rewarding. When are you going to be able to see your work and like give directions about what you're looking at, what you're thinking about? Like, if you're not in those positions, how are you going to be able to like step up professionally so that you can make those decisions with a more acute perspective?
Yeah, and being able to make decisions quickly based on a clear and concise conceptual background.
Yeah, and
you have to articulate it, right? And so just being in that moment of stepping back and saying like, I need to like express to someone what it is that I want, that articulation only happens because of like that work, that previous work of having like outlined it to yourself, like this is exactly what it needs to be. And that way when new people and new materials and things come into the work, they seamlessly roll into that aesthetic.
And you're right, like not everybody works in that way, right? Some people do, some people don't. There is also like the ability of, or like the situation where like you've never been able to work in that situation because you've never been in that crossroad.
Yeah.
So to be able to, use Maida and I's living room to be able to invite an artist to go through those growing pains and to nourish their experiences so that they can, be in that situation later on and be more competent, I suppose. Is the beauty of the effort, right? Like, it's donation based, so we don't charge the artist to come into our space. We don't charge the community to come into our space. We don't charge anybody anything.
Yeah.
So the effort is completely altruistic, and it's really for the growth of everybody that participates.
And I also want to say that Maida and Jorge are really welcoming, like extremely welcoming. It's their home, and Jorge's always like, "What kind of music do you want to listen to?" And Maida's like, "Did you eat already?" So it's like more so than like just a gallery or space. It's like their home, and it's a welcoming space where they're like my friends. Like it's more than what. Just to show my art, I think, which is, I haven't seen anywhere, like I don't see these spaces for artists, and I want to thank them for creating this space because I know it's hard.
Yeah, the effort, and one of the things is like this kind of continues on a theme that just happens in this podcast all the time, is how much cultural content artists make for the community for free. And it was a big thing that came up when we talked to Flatline Gallery, who's like another artist run in Long Beach that does like just so much programming for just the community. Anyone can just like walk in.
And they're in North Long Beach, in a community that feels like an island because there's so many like empty storefronts there. There's an effort by the congressperson or the city representative Rex Richardson to be able to activate that area. Flux Art Space is also another space that just came into the fold this year. And yet, one of the things that's really challenging about the city of Long Beach is the inability to see those spaces grow or prosper, and to be the catapult that they serve as. And so it would be really wonderful to see the city embrace those ideas and that energy and be able to encourage it in a way that doesn't seem like a vice. Because I feel like too many times artist run spaces run into, you know, this gamble. Like, I gotta invest my own money to keep this all up because no one's backing it up with, you know, angel investment.
Yeah, no,
there is none of that.
No,
right?
it's hardly a gamble at all. You're pretty much sure you're not going to make money off of that.
I get some frustration with artists, especially younger artists, when we have conversations, and they tell me about or they ask me, how is it that you sell your work? How do you survive? I was like, well, I have like 5 jobs.
Yeah.
I have side jobs. I drive for Lyft.
Yeah.
I teach art. If somebody needs something fabricated, I do it. If I can get a temp job that fits into the things, I do it. Yeah. You know, like, I'm not surviving off
No, it's harder work.
Yeah.
I don't know how the myth started that artists were people that, like, woke up late and had an espresso, and then they considered the work for some time while smoking a cigarette on a Parisian balcony, and then they, like, painted for an hour, and then they went and had a fabulous lunch with, like, a well-heeled collector, and then, you know, like this, like, weird myth that happens is just, like, so 100% false, right? It's just, like, we're all out here with, like, we consider, like, the art to be the full-time job, and then we have these other jobs that other people would also consider to be full-time jobs, you know, to feed into this, like, art-making thing. So it's like we have 3 full-time jobs, you know.
But I sort of feel like that's this myth of the American dream that every person here in the States aspires to. It's like, oh, you have charisma, you have desire, you have everything ahead of you, so long as you never quit.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? Right? I swallowed that pill. You know, like, I'm pretty broke. You know, I survive every month, just, you know, scraping by, and, you know, that's the pill that I swallowed. That's the situation, but that does not hold me down. That doesn't limit my horizons, and that doesn't challenge me to view myself as an enabler or an encourager or a mentor or somebody that, like, can open up the perspective of another person through my efforts. And so CACtTUS has been a really great platform to be able to exist and to not bend to these ideas where commercial artists are the only people that can survive.
Yeah, well, that's, like, a big part of, like, living in, like, kind of like a hyper capitalist with stratified culture plus like artifacts of apartheid involved. It's a wild country to try to, you know.
It is. It's really hard to be, like, in California right now.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be in California because
very expensive.
It's well, where do we begin, right?
Right? Yeah.
Where do we begin, right? Like, sure, we have nice weather. Let's start there. We have great weather.
Yeah,
we live in Long Beach, you know.
Yeah.
We have tepid, wonderful, like, short season most of the year.
Yeah.
You know, whatever rain we get, it's minimal, but, you know, it's still novel.
Right.
We don't get any snow or anything like that. But we do have some, like, really gross news out there. And the news this year has been absolutely horrific, you know, like, seeing brown children in concentration camps doesn't make me feel like I want to contribute to this society, because this society is putting people that look like me in camps. Like, that's not kosher. That's not cool. That's not acceptable. Yeah. How do I, like, look at myself in the mirror and what I'm doing?
It's really freaking out our Japanese Californians too. They're really feeling like one of my friends who's of Japanese descent is like, yeah, no, my parents were in a camp, and it's really feeling a lot like that, and that's it's an indication that like this country can go there, and we it's just not like the proof that it has gone there and it continues to go there, and like suspend the like, you know, this story that we're like, you know, that's not really what we are. It's just like, that's just like an extenuating circumstance, or that just happened that one time. You know, it's kind of like the, you know, the abuser that says like, oh, but I only hit her once. You know what I mean? It's like, no, that's what you are now, you know? And so like I mean, as artists, in some kind of a way, maybe we are in charge of like the story in a little bit of like, what is the story of America that we're going to tell? You know, that's part of our...
Or what is the story of being a human in this day and age? Because it's like, I think that pigeon... Sorry, were you going to say something?
No. I mean, being a human, you just brought up the idea of empathy in this day and age, and I feel like we need to grow in empathy as human beings, and just be more empathetic and put yourself in other people's shoes.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly it, right? Like, I think because I'm an artist and I work within a creative field, I'm also an artist that works with the public and engages with the public in a non-white cube kind of scenario. And so, like Roxana said, this empathy is a big part of why CACtTUS exists, is because it's looking to create a platform that, you know, listens to the neighborhood through their interactions and through their investments, through the curiosity, through them stopping and looking at the windows and seeing the transformation of the space. And instead of like changing the scenario so that it's not like, you know, a group of artists or one or two artists that come into our space in 1 week and transform it so that it's up for like 3 weeks, but now more so with a person like Roxana, who's in the space working and seeing the transformation happen in front of them. It democratizes this obscure idea of a studio space, and maybe allows a person to go like, oh, I remember when these were just trophies, and then it's like, oh, now they're not just trophies, now they look like buildings. Oh no, now they don't look like that anymore, they go like this, they go, and so to be able to democratize this magic that happens when an artist uses materials is a real serious goal for CACtTUS, because I think art has the capacity to unlock the critical cavities that people have to share empathy, to be able to be humans and not to think so narrowly about their lives, because it's too easy to fall into this trap that, like, I have to pay my bills, I have to work 40 hours, I have to work 60 hours. The answer is, you know, you need to be a human being. You need to be allowed to be a person that thinks for yourself, to find a moment of pause.
Okay, so a couple things that we talk about, and we already touched on them a little bit here. We do this little segment of the podcast called Side Hustles, where we talk about like all the other stuff that we did, and we kind of almost like just covered it now. And I think Jorge touched on it, but like if you were going to like, I don't know, some people like to, you know, talk about this issue in a lot of different ways, and we just kind of like touched on a little bit about like what the kind of like the nuts and bolts money aspect of how we make work and survive, and you know, all that kind of stuff. And then but it could be anything of how you make that you know, sort of happen.
I mean, I see myself as a chameleon. People would say, like, I don't know, it's like I want to hustle. Like, I'm trying to create a business. I'm making jewelry, making keychains. I also work 40 hours a week, but I'm also like looking to grow that career in display and event planning. And then it's just like any opportunity I get, I think I just go for it. I'm just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's start a business. Let's do this. Which is, I think, like some of the artists I know, they're just always trying to like develop themselves like that. They're just Renaissance people, you know? Mm-hmm. They want to learn everything and do everything, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. Trying to make money.
Right.
But also trying to do something that makes money, but you enjoy.
Yeah. It's you can sort of live with, too. Mm-hmm. Do you ever have that, like, you know, of course, like, we all have to, like, live, and, you know, we all have to, like, get money and stuff like that. But do you find yourself or thinking about the limits of, like, what you would do to make money? Like, I could make money, but I just can't do that one. Like what's your, like, I can't do that one thing?
I just thought about this, like, last week, because I almost gave up on my career. I almost went to the money. I think I wanted to just do the office job and just get money and move up in that business.
That's a practical thought, you know?
But then I was like, will I be happy? Will I enjoy it? Will I learn? What will my life be from then on? And I felt like choosing that would have been like me giving up on myself and just giving into capitalism and that. And it would have been like less challenging, you know? It's kind of like security. And I think I chose the non-security way, the way of that challenges me and moves me forward. And I think having an office job would be, for me, giving up.
Yeah.
And like...
Do you think the artist part of you, the artist, would rebel inside that? Like, what was your, like... I'm sure you projected into the future, like, what will that be like? And I just try to make that decision, so...
I mean, the opportunity for me to be who I am in the office setting would be me just, like... kind of like me always trying to be happy there, but not really being happy there, and giving an excuse like, oh yeah, I'm like meeting new people, you know, I'm like talking to people, and this is fine, and but there was more opportunities to be creative in this other aspect, the other arm of another job, but less security, and but I feel also like, on the other hand, like, artists can be fluid wherever they're at, and we're able to just see whatever they're doing, either if they're bartending, if they're serving, if they're doing that they're able to use that in their work, or just be fluid in that, where sometimes it's not. Like, I was just thinking, I was like, if I'm going to, like, from one company to another, or like one store to another, talking to people, maybe those people are going to inspire me in my work, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, those types of thoughts. So maybe that's what...
Yeah, I have a perfect example of exactly doing that. Bar Fund.
Yeah?
Yeah. Bar Fund is artists that were doing like a little side hustle thing of being the bartenders for big galleries at show openings.
Oh,
you know?
Cool.
And they would put the tip jar out there, and instead of taking it for themselves, they started compiling it amongst all of themselves, and then now they give that out as grants.
Oh, wow.
To other artists. So the board of 12 people that do all the bartending, collect all the tip money, then they redistribute it to fellow artists.
That's awesome.
That's insane,
cool.
Right? You got to look them up. They're amazing.
Like, I like this. I like this a lot, because it's like an alternative to the standard.
Yeah.
You know? And you really have to, like, highlight that creative thought and thinking outside of the box, and saying fuck all of these, like, selfish, you know, gestures of, like, ownership or taking on all these things. Like, why don't we work together? Why don't we, like, share that wealth? Why don't we, like, give each other a pat on the back every once in a while?
But, like, but also, like, such a, like, an amazing self-sacrificing gesture for artists.
Yeah.
Like, because we really should not be the ones that are, like, bringing the money in, because we create so much culture for other people. We, like, you guys were just saying about people coming by and seeing the the cactus window front changing, like, you're giving them that opportunity to, like, lift their head up off of their phone or worry about their, like, other problems and just see the world in a different view. And, like you're saying, you're allowing them that opportunity to have empathy, to literally see the world as you see it, you know? And that's, like, that's an amazing, priceless gift, you know, that artists are, like, constantly giving. They deserve to be compensated, you know, like, this is what we go on and on and on. And like I think the power of Bar Fund is, like, not only in the grants that they give, which they raise an amazing amount of money. It's incredible, and what they do is super impactful to the artists, but it's also to just, like, the idea that it's out there, you know, that someone's willing to go to that level where they're probably having a hard time making their rent, and they're, you know, they could much more be even, like, using that time instead of bartending at this opening to be working on their work. And it's like Jorge was just saying a minute ago, it's 24 hours a day now, you know? So just the idea that they would do that and have that collective spirit is really heartening and inspiring to me, you know.
Yeah.
And to everyone I think that knows about them. But so, like, our last segment is kind of like your guys' challenge to us. Who do you think would be a great artist that you would want to recommend to be on our show, or someone that you just like, or they have a great idea, but they have to be the 3 counties. We try to keep it like LA based artists, but we do include, like, Orange County, Ventura County, you know, the other kinds of artists too, but we could keep it, you know. I mean, you know what,
somebody like, that I really admire and their effort, and I feel like if I could champion their attitude more so, is this artist named Nat Osbaker, ISO Baker. He's, like, one of the artists that is, one, always down to help, never bats an eye at being there and supporting and encouraging, has really great insight, is driven, is a person you want to be around because they're hungry and ambitious, but not egotistical. They're really all about, you know, being present for themselves and the people around them. So I'll give a shout out to Nat Osbaker, because I really admire how hard he works.
There's this one girl called Angel King. She's she invited me to the Long Beach City College gallery there, and right now she goes to UCLA, and I just keep seeing her stories, and they're really she's just, like, hustling, you know. She's, like, working really hard.
Yeah.
And I feel she's just really a super hard worker, you know, like, young artist. She's really down to earth too. And, like, she just welcomed me so nicely there. I was like, what? Like, you want me to show there? Like, you taught this to students? Like, what? So yeah, Angel King. She goes by Sleep Is My Rival on Instagram.
There's an artist by the name of Carla Camacho. And she is an artist she just finished her BFA at Cal State Long Beach. She works in the ceramics department. She worked with CACtTUS on a show in April called Reclaiming Voices, Reclamando Voces, in which she created women's underwear using porcelain slit. And so when she created the women's underwear out of the porcelain, she would invite survivors of sexual assault to write their stories on the apparel that she made out of porcelain. And when she hung that work in our living room, it was really powerful because other survivals of sexual assault related to the stories that were written. And it was really intense to see somebody relive their trauma. It was really intense to be there for people when they would see the work. But at the same time, it was really important to be able to provide a space for survivors and be able to encourage them through this creative act. Since that installation last April, Carla has continued to work at Cal State Long Beach, and has some really awesome ideas when it comes to her own work moving forward. So I would definitely pitch Carla Camacho. Well, I kind of wanted to maybe embellish a little bit on some of the efforts that Maida has been putting forward this year in what she's been doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I definitely want to do a shout out to the second half of CACtTUS, which is Maida Serna, and her efforts. It's really been a big part of CACtTUS to be open and willing to incorporate other aspects of creativity that are not encompassed by just artists that make objects. And so we've incorporated bi-weekly Women of Color Circle, which receives some generous support from the Cal State Long Beach Presidential Committee. We've created a platform for Ayurveda sessions. So we have a few dates coming up where if anybody wants to learn how to create medicine from natural homedic paths, instead of going to a CVS to buy something, they can learn how to do something for themselves using a homedic alternative. And so we're providing a class setting for that to happen, so they can visit our Instagram account to get more information about when those dates will be posted. We have a quarterly poetry reading and open mic that we've been working with other poets to do. It's primarily been women of color that show up, that come through, that encourage that idea. And so it's been a really valuable asset or an artery for creativity to occur that's not physically in hand. And there's aspirations to integrate a writing workshop within the next few months. So there's more than just an artist in residency program that's existing in CACtTUS. There's a multi-use to that particular storefront that I feel in collaboration with Maida and I, we make an effort to accommodate. The last thing that we have coming up is this Tuesday. This Tuesday, February 19th at 7 p.m., we're going to host a Kundalini Yoga and meditation night. So there'll be 3 people there that will guide us through a Kundalini Yoga experience.
Whoa.
And then there'll be a sound bath afterwards to help kind of create a platform for healing, because I think it's not just enough to allow artists to, or allow the community to be exposed to art, but they should be exposed to creative mediums that are not definable by some type of definition, but experiencing different things so that they can have a reference for themselves.
And is that open to the public?
It is open to the public. The yoga has an $11 donation, suggested donation. So you're welcome to donate the $11, or you can contribute in other ways. But
Or
nobody's discouraged.
Yeah.
Nobody is asked to you have to pay this money. You're welcome to come and experience it, and if it's rewarding and enriching to you, then contribute. And that contribution does not have to be monetary. It could be sharing the fact that you experienced this. It could be going up to the instructors and being, I learned this from it, or just being honest and being like, I didn't get anything from it either. But that transparency is maybe more valuable than the $11.
Okay, awesome. So, Roxana, is there a way for people to see your work if they want to kind of check around?
Yeah, I have my Instagram, Roxana J Martinez with one N. I forgot to pay my website, but that's my Instagram. And I think the show opens
March 9th.
March 9th at CACtTUS.
So Roxana is going to be working for the next few weeks on this installation, which we hope to be completed by March 9th, but we have some flexibility because Roxana is our first artist in residence. So this is the first time we've had this platform exist. We're not really enthusiastic about pulling the trigger on a terminal date, but maybe ad hocing this so that Roxana can get as much value from this experience and be able to transform the space into something that really becomes transformative for a person that comes into through the storefront. So we want to invite everybody to the second Saturday Art Walk on 3rd and Elm in downtown Long Beach on March 9th from 5 to 9, and you can meet Roxana there. She'll be there, and she'll be there working throughout the time.
March 9th, and plus, just like anytime you want to walk by in front and make a suggestion, give a thumbs up.
Yeah.
You know,
just knock.
Interact.
If the doors are on and somebody's there, just knock. Say hello.
Don't be scared of Otis. He's
No,
really nice.
Yeah. Don't be scared of Otis.
Otis, man, might look tough. I don't know.
He's
He looks big.
He's just a handsome boy.
He is so handsome.
Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Please hit us up. We really know that you guys are listening because we have those analytics, so Big Brother knows you're listening, and we want to hear from you all. Thanks so much to CACtTUS LB, Jorge Mujica, and Roxana Martinez for coming out, talking to us, doing the studio visit, and just generally being good guys and gals. All right. Thanks, everybody, and thank you for listening to Art Traffic.